is week 8 of the 2025 NFL season, and this is Captain, my captain, Club Fantasy's DFS Showdown breakdown of the NFL primetime games. Today's video is going to focus on Thursday night's matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Chargers. We're breaking it all down next. Captain, my captain, this is Club Fantasy's DFS Showdown breakdown video series. I'm your host, Joshua Hudson. He is Austin Amendolia, our DFS expert here at Club Fantasy. In this video, as mentioned in the intro, we are going to be breaking down the Week 8 Thursday Night Football preview. The Minnesota Vikings versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Remember, if you're watching this over on YouTube, hit the like on the video. We greatly appreciate it. Even more appreciative if you'd hit that subscribe and follow along with the channel and everything else that we're doing here, whether it's DFS, Redraft, Dynasty, mock drafts, you name it, we got it. You can also join our free Discord. The link is in the video of this description. But first, let's get into the matchup. It's the Vikings versus the Chargers. Our first segment is Captain Chalk. These are going to be the chalky captains that everybody is likely to play because they're just that damn good. And Austin, you have the chalky of chalk here because, let's face it, Justin Jefferson is that dude. He's a really good football player. But the stat sheet might say a little bit differently so far through 7 weeks, or 6, I guess, if you're the Vikings, because they've already had their bye week. So, Austin, why do you have Jefferson here in the chalky captain spot?
Yeah, I think despite him underperforming this year, he will likely be the most highest rostered player on the slate, but he might actually not be as chalky as you would traditionally think with the optimal captain. A lot of times the player in this category ends up being rostered 20-30% in the captain spot. I feel like Jefferson has the potential to hit in that 10 to 15% range this week, in part because there's so many other interesting options for captains because of the deep number of receivers that you could put in the captain spot this week. You have Justin Herbert you could put there. The running backs are a little bit interesting. So Jefferson might actually be a little bit less chalky than usual. So I would like going towards him in the captain spot this week because to the point that you put in the show notes, he hasn't scored a touchdown yet this season. That seems
he's only scored
one. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since he scored a touchdown. I think that is going to change, and it's just a matter of time until he has one of those 2 touchdown games. And now is a really good opportunity to go after in this matchup.
Yeah, I think the biggest question really with Jefferson, and we get this question a lot in the Discord, what is wrong with Justin Jefferson? Like, does Carson Wentz just not like him? Well, here's the thing. He has 3 straight games over 10 or more targets. Like, it's not like they're not throwing him the football. He has 4 straight games where Wentz has appeared where he has 75 or more receiving yards and at least 5 catches. The numbers are there. It's just that big 0 where the touchdowns are. That's been the problem. He hasn't found pay dirt. But here's the fun thing. The Chargers give up points to wide receivers. Excuse me. They have allowed at least 15 DraftKings points to a wide receiver on an opposing team in all but 2 games. And in those 2 games, they faced the Raiders and the Giants before like Jackson Dart really got going. So when they face good receivers, those receivers produce. So I like Justin Jefferson to kind of like get that breakout, like, hey, I'm here in 2025. Like that swagger, kind of getting that back. So I'm with you. I would be okay paying up in like cash games, but maybe sort of deviating a little bit in tournaments just because, you know, for the next category here, the Mutineers, these would be the contrarian captains. Jefferson's running mate, Jordan Addison, since he came back from the suspension, these 3 games has been absolutely balling for the Vikings.
Yeah, he has. It's why I was just like still drafting him in best ball leagues when the suspension came down, because it was just like we knew this was going to happen, right? And
I don't think we knew it was going to happen to this extent.
yeah, it has definitely paid off even more than you could have expected. To your point, he has been eating up the targets. He's been getting a ton of catches with Carson Wentz under center, and he has been the one scoring touchdowns. He's often a good contrarian pick, pivot pit off of Justin Jefferson in these showdown slates, just because he also has that pop ability. We've seen him get huge chunk games, be a big playmaker, and so I really like going towards Jordan Addison in tournaments this week. I'll sprinkle in a little bit of both, but I think he'll still probably be one of the top 4 or 5 highest rostered captains. So keep that in mind. You're not getting super different. You're not tricking anybody by putting Jordan Addison in your captain spot, but he's going to be a really good player to put in your captain.
3 straight games he scored over 15 fantasy points. 2 of those 3 games he's gone over 114 yards. Pretty damn good, not gonna lie. Your other contrarian captain choice, as my good buddy Joe Zolo likes to say, little lad McConkey, because let's face it, homeboy's coming back. We were really worried about him at the start of the season. Quentin Johnston was getting going, Keenan Allen returning, being a target hog. But these last few weeks, Lad McConkey's really started to get going. Do we think he's finally back to being that wide receiver 1 here for the Chargers?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to go to that level, because it feels like they just have like 3 receivers that any one of them could be the one in a given week. Like Keenan Allen popped last week. We've seen Quentin Johnston have multiple games where he was the dominant receiver. This is a little bit of a salary play. Lad McConkey is the cheapest of the 3 Chargers receivers this week. So in some ways, I'm like, they all have the same likelihood to me to have a 20-30 game performance. Pick the cheapest one, but even more to the point, like pick whichever one you want. I think McConkey is likely to be the one that gets overlooked because people are going to like chase Keenan Allen's performance from last week. They'll chase Quentin Johnston from earlier this year, thinking he's coming back from injury and getting back going in another game back from that injury. So McConkey could easily go overlooked in this matchup, and I think it's likely to be more lowly rostered than the other 2.
Yeah, Justin Herbert through 7 games has thrown the football 271 times. That breaks down to 38.7 pass attempts per game. He can support 3 wide receivers and a pretty damn good tight end, mind you, who's really started to come into his own. So, yeah, honestly, I think to your point, like any of these 3 wide receivers can be that sort of contrarian captain. McConkey just makes the most sense because right now he's the cheapest, which, I mean, does it make sense? Who cares? Take advantage of it. Our next category are going to be your first mates, because every captain needs a reliable crew. These are going to be your standouts that maximize your lineups. Let's stay on that Chargers side, and let's talk a little bit more about Mr. Keenan Allen.
Yeah, Keenan Allen's just turned back the clock. I guess returning back to Los Angeles was like the thing he needed to fix all of his woes from 2024. Chicago, not too cold. We don't like windy places. Los Angeles, weather's nicer. I don't know. I'm making stuff up, but he's doing better in Los Angeles right now and is getting just consistent amounts of volume. And so for me, like, even if I do play McConkey in my captain spot, to your point, like Justin Herbert is going to throw the ball a decent amount, and he can hit that 300-yard game very easily. So he can support 3 receivers very well. So I'm not scared of playing 2 Los Angeles Chargers receivers in my lineup. And Keenan Allen just continues to get such consistent volume, regardless of who's in the lineup around him, that it feels like a sure thing that he's in the lineup for 8 to 10 targets. And I love that in any player in a showdown contest.
I feel like with Allen, when you look at least the last like 3 weeks, his production has been very game script dependent. Like when they were beating up on Miami, he did nothing. Like he had 7 targets because the offense is throwing the ball right now, but it was like 4 catches, 29 yards. And then they're trailing most of the game against the Colts, sees a bunch of targets, and then the production pops up. So it's like when we're trailing and we're throwing, Justin Herbert's like, all right, I got to find my guy. Where's Keenan Allen? I know he can get me what I need. And so I feel like again, even when you're talking about, those pivots from, the contrarian captain choices and you want to go the Keenan Allen route, that's where you build it with him as the captain, where Minnesota just jumps out to a big lead. And it's like, all right, I'm riding with Keenan because he's going to feast, right?
Yeah.
That to me just kind of feels where Keenan Allen comes into play on it, really any of your DFS picks, whether it's building out the flex or even as a captain. But one player that I think can be a very interesting play here when you're talking about game script is Jordan Mason, because dude, the Chargers suck against the running back the last 3 weeks. They're big bad.
Yes, when you go into the app and you look at this matchup for DraftKings, it makes it seem like the Chargers are like pretty good against running backs, and it might scare people off who aren't like paying attention to what's happened in recent weeks. But to your point, since week 4, the Chargers have allowed the 4th most points to the running back position. That is really good for Jordan Mason. I think Jordan Mason is also eligible to be put in the captain spot this week, because if he scores 2 touchdowns and rushes for 100 yards, like it's going to be hard to beat that. So I would throw that out there, but regardless, like I kind of want to find a way to put him in my lineup, even if it's like what you just said of like, I'm betting on the Chargers being in a game script where they need to feed Keenan Allen. I want Keenan Allen in my captain spot and then Jordan Mason in one of my flex spots, because that helps tell the story, right? Jordan Mason they're playing from ahead. He's getting a ton of rushing yards and touchdowns, and then the Chargers are trying to catch up and feeding Keenan Allen in the process. So I really love it. I think those players complement well, but Jordan Mason is someone that I'm very interested in playing for this contest.
Yeah, since week 3, the Chargers have allowed 85 or more rushing yards to running backs in every single game. And over the last 3 weeks have given up 7 rushing touchdowns. 7. Now, I understand that the Vikings are activating Aaron Jones, and we're going to get Aaron Jones in this game. But Aaron Jones's role is strictly change of pace, passing down. Like the way they were using Jordan Mason even before Aaron Jones went out, he was the hammer. He was the guy that was running through the defenses, wearing them down. The biggest issue for me when you're considering Jordan Mason, 3 starts for Carson Wentz, he has not had less than 34 pass attempts. Like they are throwing the football with him. So they need to get away from that and say, we need to attack this defense by running the football because they can't stop the run, and we need to get the ball out of Carson Wentz's hands. So that's kind of a big worry, I think, when you're considering some of the Vikings pass catchers too in those captain spots. Like if they want to win, maybe they need to focus more on Jordan Mason versus slinging the rock. But like you said, what story are you telling when you're building your lineup? And I think that really plays into whether or not you're attacking it with your Vikings pass catchers or with Jordan Mason in the running game. All right, next category is going to be your deck scrubbers. These are the cheap punt plays that can make a lineup based on one play, limited opportunity. Austin, I got to tell you, I don't know if there's much limited opportunity with one Oronde Gadsden setting the season high for receiving yards by a tight end in 2025 last week, but the price reflects it, so fuck it, we ball, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. The pricing structure on this matchup is really interesting, because, as I alluded to earlier, there's so many different players you can reasonably go to in this matchup that are going to have good floors. So I do feel like Oronde Gadsden has a chance to be really highly rostered because people are going to chase what happened last week. I think I'm still comfortable with that because I think there's good reason to believe that it does continue and that he is getting a ton of volume. He did it with all 3 primary receivers in the lineup, so no reason to see why that would change this week. It wasn't just last week, the week before he was getting a similar amount of target volume. So I feel like it's fine to go back to him in this matchup, especially if it ends up that the Chargers are down in this matchup. I think something that was interesting to me looking at last week for this is Justin Herbert threw the ball over 50 times last week when they were in that negative game script. And so to your point, if you imagine that Minnesota jumps out ahead and the Chargers are back in that negative game script, well, that's just going to be conducive to multiple pass catchers eating. And so probably don't play all 4 Chargers receivers.
Could you even get all 4 in under salary? Like,
Yeah, you probably can't, but unless you play like someone that's like $200, and then it's like, okay,
get
well,
zeros out of them. Yeah.
I might not even play 3 of them, but you could definitely play 2 of them. And
Yeah.
so if you're like playing multi-entry contests, like pick several different combos of 2 of the pass catchers. Rondé Gatson should be one of them for sure.
Yeah. Your DFS Academy co-host Ryan, he and I talk about this a lot, where there's a lot of correlation between tight end targets and RB targets on a given team. With Najee and Omarion Hampton out, they don't really have that viable pass catching running back in the lineup. So that's a lot of the reason why you're seeing more targets float the way of Rondé Gatson right now. And honestly, ride that wave, soak it up, because if they're going to keep pricing him this cheap, it's free money at that point. Let's stick with the opposite tight end here. TJ Hawkinson dropped a touchdown pass last week. Hasn't been all that great. But why do you like him here in this section?
Well, I like him because he's not getting like that much less volume than what Rondé Gatson has been getting over the past couple of weeks. And yet Gatson is more expensive than Hawkinson in this slate. And something seems off there. That does not feel like it should be the case. So it feels like an easy pivot, especially because I don't think people are going to want to lean too heavily into the Vikings pass game, because it's Carson Wentz. Like we don't feel super great about him under center in terms of like supporting multiple pop performances from pass catchers. So I feel like people on the Viking side are going to play like Jordan Addison. Maybe they stack with Carson Wentz and they get out, or maybe they do Jordan Mason and one pass catcher and they get out. And I could see TJ Hawkinson getting overlooked within that context. He's been getting enough volume, and at the salary price, I think he's an easy way to get different off this matchup, especially if, say, Jordan Addison fails this week and isn't able to hit that ceiling he's been hitting lately.
Well, if the question you asked, why Gadsden is right now being priced a little bit more expensive. Gadsden had 164 receiving yards just last week. In 6 games, TJ Hawkinson has 196. He's just not producing the yards with those targets. He's averaging not even 8 yards per reception right now. He's a very low a low ADOT kind of target at this point. And really, you're just hoping he finds the end zone, which, again, he had an opportunity to this past week. Chargers tend to do okay against tight ends with Derwin James covering. But, I mean, if he comes in cheaper, then sure, like, take the dart throw and see what you compare him with. So, that said, come play these DraftKings tournaments against us. Hit the link in the description of this podcast, whether you're listening on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, wherever it goes. Come play these tournaments against us. Maybe you'll beat Austin. Maybe you'll beat me. Maybe you'll beat some of the other people that come and play in our league, which is always a lot of fun, because sometimes I win, sometimes Austin wins, and sometimes other people win. Maybe that somebody could be you. Let's get to our last segment here. It is the Kraken, the lineup trap that sinks the ship. Austin, we've talked a little bit about game script here. Let's talk about these passing games.
Yeah, I think there's a risk of leaning too heavily into the pass game in general on this matchup. So when prepping for this, I looked at the over-under. It was set around 44.5 when I looked at it earlier. It may have shifted since then, but that's a fairly low total for a matchup that has what I would say at least 6 really skilled receivers or pass catchers who could cause this game to go back and forth a little bit, which signals to me that what if this game hits the under? What if this game is not the shootout that we might want Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson to be? Like having those guys on either side of the ball. What if it is more of a slugfest? What if they slow it down a little bit and Kamani Vidal and Jordan Mason end up getting a lot of run in this game? That's all to say, I think that you should be looking at running backs in your captain spot, because I do think there are scenarios where you can see them being the optimal picks and the pass game getting spread amongst so many receivers that none of them is the optimal captain. And it's one of those things. It tends to happen. Sometimes it happens on the show when we lean so far into one version of how this game goes. It's always worth considering what is the other take, because there's a potential pathway to get different there, and that is ultimately how you hit the game theory and can hit the jackpot in some of these showdown contests.
You know, Austin, with all these what ifs, I feel like we're going to get a letter from Marvel suing us for copyright. So keep that in mind next time you play this what if game. Friendly reminder, you can like this video if you're listening on or watching on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. Any other podcast feed that you're listening on, Apple, Spotify, you name it, please throw us a follow and never miss any of the DFS content that Austin puts out. Him and Ryan host our DFS Academy show, which previews the Sunday slate of games. And of course, you can always come and talk football, fantasy, DFS, you name it. Come talk with us over in our free Discord. You can find the link in the description of this podcast. Follow us on the socials at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. He is Austin Amendolia. I am Joshua Hudson. And until next time, come and try and beat us. Play these showdown slates against us. We dare you. We'll see you next time.